Mr. Mailman, bring me a dream, bum 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 bum. I've ever seen. Bum, 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 bum. Well, I got something in the mail from eBay, and I always look forward to getting things from this particular seller because not only are the pens that I get from him quite good, but he has the ability to make me smile by using stamps that are put all over the place, and he keeps the mailmen in the country from shooting themselves because they're laughing so much at the way he does things. And this particular pen that I bought from him is going to be a rather modest pen, but it looked like it was going to have a nice nib. So, of course, he uses the perforations from the stamps to seal the envelopes and to wrap around this. Who needs to buy tape when you have the edges of a stamp? And this envelope is the Family Handyman. Anyway, let's see what this looks like. And the winner is Citizen Kane, Best Picture. No, it was Mrs. Miniver for that year. It's a cute little Wahl. I think it has a number 2 flexible nib. It looked like the nib was a little bent, which in fact it is in reality. But it also looked with my X-ray vision that I have, it looked like it was going to be a sturdy nib, even if it was a little wavy. Where's my ink? We'll try black ink here. It's a little scratchy, and I think it might be because the nib did have trauma. There we go. Really good for drawing. I think a calligrapher would find it too broad on the fine stroke. The nib, let me see if I can cut out a facsimile of the nib to show you what I will try to do to fix it. So here's our nib. So imagine it was bent, curved. Okay, where did you go? We have a little bit of a bend up and a little bit of a bend down. It sort of is doing this. There's not a crease in it, so it's not going to crack, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into my little nib straightener thing, which I will show you, and we'll try to fix it. Should I do it right now? See if I can do it right now. Where are you? Okay, I found half of what I need. I found both elements of what I need. So this is a section block, big piece of bronze cast bronze or cast steel. Looks like it's bronze underneath all of it. Nickel-plated bronze. And what I do is I set the nib in here, and then I rub it with my burnisher. Now, which way, looking at this, which way does the point aim? Is the sharp end toward me or toward there? Everyone made their guess? It's this way. The nib flares out, so you want to have the wider part be where the point is. So let's take the nib out. And we put it in here. And this is sort of just by, I don't really look at what I'm doing because I can't see it well enough. But what I do is I press down on this point of this burnisher to see if I can make that little wave pattern go away. Well, it's a lot better than it was, just with my little magic fingers right there. It's still a little wavy. Where's my loop? Still a little wavy. So it's I'm very happy with this. Now this is, as you saw, a very modest pen. It's a small number 2 sized Wahl ladies pen, but it had a really nice looking nib, which in fact is nicer looking now than it was. It's still a little tiny bit wavy. It looks like someone did try to attack it with the pliers once upon a time in its life. It has little tooth marks on one side of it. So I don't think that was visible in the photographs that were made for the sale on eBay. And had they been there, I might have gotten it for a little tiny bit less. Again, it's to begin with, the nib is a little broader than what a calligrapher would like, but a draftsman, drawer, or just a regular writer should find this to be okay. There's still a little bit of tweaking I need to do on it, I think, but I'm not going to do it right now, just because I wanted to get back to my constructions, and I have to put a new sack in the pen, but the section comes out. This is the chevron, the little chevron pattern, not chevron, the wheat pattern that I don't know what they called it, but it looks like wheat. It was unique to, I mean, a lot of people had the Greek key pattern, and a lot of people had the little zigzaggy wavy pattern and stuff, checkerboard pattern, but I think Wahl was the only company that had this sort of chevron thing that's made, that looks like this. It's line, 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 and more lines like this in sort of a chevron, but it has gaps between them. So I may have made this nib worse. It may write worse. It looks better, but it may write worse. But again, I will figure this out when I do it in reality. The section comes out, needs a new sack, which I can put on it, and I will have it up and running. I had a pen like this recently that I just sold to a mother of one of my neighbors, who turned out to be a calligrapher. And my neighbor said, I'd like to buy a pen for her. So she came by and we looked at a bunch of pens, and she chose this little Wahl. Let me see if I can do something with it here. It would help if I had my little glasses that I could see, but I don't have those little glasses, so I'm just using the Braille method of pen repair. I may need to attack this with the pliers as well as the burnisher here. What you want to make sure you do if you're fixing any sort of nib that has a bend in it is, it can do this, if it has to, it's going to write fine. You want the two balls, the two halves of the sphere of the iridium to not only touch, but you don't want them to be open at either end. And sometimes when you tweak a nib with a pliers, you end up bending the bottom of it out, or the top of it out, more likely the bottom. And if the bottom is bent out, there won't be a way for the ink to get to the paper. So you want both of the halves to be touching. Okay, come on. Now, because of the trauma that this nib had, normally you don't have to do this with an old pen, but at some point this fell right on its little nose in its life. So once, at least once, maybe more than that. There we go. I think it's working. And as one might do, if you've dropped a nib on the floor, you'd bend it back with your pliers. Of course, if you're using pliers you use in automobile repair, that's not going to work. If you use one that you use for fixing jewelry, that's better. But a nib pliers is quite another thing, and it takes a lot of experience to make it work. And even then, it doesn't guarantee that it's going to work. And for those of you that know me well, I'm someone who repairs a pen. I don't restore it. I'll put a sack in a pen, clear it out, but I'm not going to take the pen completely apart and put it in an ultrasonic cleaner, because that's not needed. For the pen to work, you don't need to do that. For the pen to be as close to what it looked like when it came out of the factory, and you're going to put it in your safety deposit box, you can restore it. But if you're going to use it, getting it to work is important. Getting the last little bump out of its nib maybe isn't needed. I try to fix them if I can, but there's a point at which my skill set stops, and I don't have the welding torches and things like that to do them more than I do. And what I do, I think, is pretty good for the most part. Thank you, eBay seller. This is quite a lovely little pen. This will make an artist happy, or a writer happy, and maybe even a calligrapher happy. There's nothing wrong with it for any of these uses. The nice thing about little ladies' pens like this is one often can get them at half the cost of the larger, longer, clipped man-size version. So, because I can get them cheaper and fix them and sell them, I can sell them cheaper as well, so that if someone, rather than buying one pen for X dollars, for that same amount of money, you can buy two pens maybe, and one could have a flexible nib, the other one can have a very fine, firm nib for a different kind of use. So quantity is always more important to me than size. Qualities in this is the same as the quality in this. If this is a Waterman, this is a Wahl, I know there's a difference. But the number 2 nib here and the number 2 nib in the Waterman will produce the same effect for the user. And you could probably buy, if both of these were at a pen show at a table, you could probably buy 5 of these for the price of one of these, or 10 of these for the one of these, depending on the mood of the seller. So and for me, I'd rather have 10 of these than one of those, or whatever. Having 2 nibs is better than 1. 99% of the time. There are some nibs, though, that having 1 is better than 100 other nibs, if they're really amazing. But anyway, little Wahl chevron pattern. I will put that somewhere where I will put a sack in it, and it will be fixed, and I'll take a look at the nib under better power than this and see if I can straighten it any further. But I think it was pretty sweet. So there you go. Thanks.